Ladies and gentlemen, this is El Cochino, Tom Lawler, and I'd like to welcome you to the podcast that puts the lotion on its own skin, LuchaWorld. Bitchin'.
Welcome everyone to LuchaWorld Podcast episode 101. Fredo Esparza here. This week we will be recapping Triplemania 26, which had a big mask match and a big mask versus hair match. Also a title change on there. We'll be remembering Villano III, who passed away recently. We will be previewing the CMLL anniversary show, plus some of the other news that came from the CMLL press conference from a couple of days ago. And I'll be recapping the August 4th Mexa wrestling show, which I thought was actually pretty good. The entire show wasn't posted on Mas Lucha's YouTube channel, but it was enough where it was a pretty fun show. There was some stuff that I wasn't really into, but I would say for the most part, it looked like it's a show that I would recommend watching. So I guess we should get started with Triplemania 26, which happened on August 25th from Arena Ciudad de Mexico. It was actually a really long show. They actually started, it aired live on Twitch, and I'm sure they're going to put it on their TV show. They'll be posting it on YouTube via their TV show that they put every week. I would guess I guess pretty soon they'll start posting it because they're already doing the next tapings. They have a lot of tapings in the upcoming days. I think they have 3 over this upcoming weekend, from September 7th through the 9th, and then there's another one like 2 weeks later. So AAA's been pretty busy, but Triplemania, I think it started 3 p.m. Pacific time. They started with like a pre-show to the pre-show, where they basically had interviews and a lot of shots of the empty arena. Since nobody was there, they were just setting everything up. So I think it started about 5 p.m. Pacific. The actual pre-show started. The opening match for the pre-show was Dragon Bane, Astrolux, Freelance, beating Aramis, Drastic Boy, and Latigo. This was a really fun match. I think there was only a couple of moments where they got a little sloppy. Freelance, I think, missed a move, but it wasn't anything that was that noticeable because they made up for it with a lot of craziness, a lot of cool dives. Freelance ended up winning the match for his team as he used a top rope reverse Frankensteiner on Aramis to get the win. Really good. I do recommend that match. I would say that was probably one of the better matches on the show. Hopefully it does make it onto the TV show for those of you who aren't subscribers to Twitch. I should mention this also, if you're a Twitch, if you have Amazon Prime, that's how I ended up becoming a Twitch subscriber. They let you pick one Twitch channel to subscribe to. So I ended up just picking AAA for the month. I don't know if that's going to continue because somebody sent me an article about how they were going to discontinue it for whatever, but I was able to do it. So I don't know if maybe it's an old article or maybe it's something that's just talking about a change coming up. But I really just want to watch Triplemania, and that was probably going to be the one show I would definitely watch live from AAA. So, and like I said, the pre-show, the opening match was really good. They followed that up with Villano III getting inducted into the AAA Hall of Fame. Dorian Roldan and Maricela Peña Roldan were joined by Villano III's widow and his 2 sons, Villano III Jr. and Hijo de Villano III. They were actually also at the CMLL show the previous night, which was Friday, August 24th, to have a moment of applause for Villano III. I thought both promotions did a very nice job handling this. They allowed guys who aren't part of the promotion to be on those shows. So I thought that was a really classy thing. Putting aside all the politics, I thought that was really cool. The second match on the pre-show was Sammy Guevara beating Australian Suicide, ACH, and Shane Strickland to win the AAA World Cruiserweight title. I thought this match was a little bit sloppy. It wasn't horrible or it wasn't bad. I just thought it was okay. But there was some stuff that I wasn't really a fan of. Like Shane Strickland at one point messed up, and he, rather than just continue doing the move, he kind of played it up to the crowd, and I kind of think that kind of hurt that. It kind of made him look a little unprofessional at that point. I'm sure it was just him playing up his role or whatever, but it just didn't look that good. Then at the very end of this match, they had Killer Cross run in and attack everyone except Australian Suicide. He ended up giving Australian Suicide a mad t-shirt. Australian Suicide didn't agree to it at that point, but he did later on the show as he ended up being part of Mad. He accompanied them to the ring with later during the main Triplemania show. But the match was actually okay. I mean, I don't think it was. I think some of these guys kind of took it as them being on the pre-show and not really caring, and they really weren't going to be able to match whatever the opening match guys did, because the opening match guys were really good. So then we ended up getting the second induction for the AAA Hall of Fame, which was Dr. Alfonso Morales and Gran Apache. At this point, the live feed actually started having some technical issues, so I don't think anybody could understand or read or see what was going on, because some of the video was pixelated, some of the audio couldn't be heard because of all the technical issues. I think AAA posted it on YouTube later on. I thought they did an okay job. I don't think anybody was expecting anything to it wasn't something that was, I don't know. I mean, it's the Hall of Fame, so I think for us Lucha fans, we kind of like it, but at the same time, there's a lot of people who aren't, who are more casual fans that are just going to watch Triplemania that one time or watch one AAA show at Triplemania. And I don't think they really, I think they were more concerned about the technical issues, and they actually took like 15 minutes trying to figure out what was going on. And they finally fixed it for the main show, which I thought was really, I didn't have as many issues. At first, I kind of thought some of the issues were my own internet, but I later, I think a couple of people were mentioning that they had technical issues later on, like the little circle would show up that that the stream wasn't really working. I thought it was my internet, but it wasn't as frequent as other times where I'm watching a feed and it just constantly happens. This one wasn't that bad. It happened, I think, once or twice, like later on the show, and then like I think in the main event, like towards the end, it just like it kind of had that little issue, but it wasn't during the match itself. It was like when all the post-match stuff happened, or actually even before the post-match stuff happened. It was somewhere in between, the pinfall and Hijo del Fantasma unmasking. There was like a little bit of a brief glitch, but it worked fine the rest of the time. The first match on the main show was Niño Hamburguesa and Big Mami beating Hijo Vikingo, Vanilla Vargas, Dinastia and Lady Maravilla, and Angelical and La Hiedra to retain the AAA World Mixed Tag Team titles. I thought this was a really good match. Niño Hamburguesa and Big Mami, they're not the greatest workers, but they know how to work the crowd, and the crowd loves them. And I thought the way they did this match, they worked it perfectly with them doing the big dives, getting the big moments, the big plancha, everything that they got to do, they, just to get the crowd reaction to be positive towards, the match itself. I thought they did a great job. Hijo Vikingo looked fantastic as always. Vanilla Vargas had had an unfortunate moment where she hit a tope, and I think she might have landed awkwardly or hit it incorrectly, because she kind of seemed down for a bit, and you could see some of the medical staff show up, like go check on her, and then you saw Vampiro ringside kind of check on her. I should mention also before I continue that I was watching the feed in Spanish. A lot of people who complained about the Triplemania show were watching the English feed, which had the English commentary with Vampiro and Matt Striker. Those guys, I don't know why you guys keep doing it. If you're still watching that, you have an option of listening to, like, if you don't understand Spanish and you have the option of not understanding Spanish or listening to two guys like act like complete idiots on the show on commentary, you're better off just not understanding anything and watching it in Spanish, because I thought the guys in Spanish were so much better. The benefits of being bilingual, I understood everything they were saying, so I could actually get away with not watching that stuff and still enjoy it. Getting back to the match, Vanilla Vargas got hurt, but she was fine enough. She came back and she actually continued to wrestle. I still think she kind of looks a little green in the ring, because at certain points she kind of looks a little lost. But the guys in the match really did a nice job. La Hiedra, I mean, I don't know what's happened to La Hiedra, where she's kind of become a good base for not just the women, but for the smaller luchadors, the male luchadors, where they could hit dives on her and she'll catch them. That's the one thing she really does well. I think I would have liked to have seen her team up with Villano III Jr., but Angelical was perfectly fine in this. I thought it was a fun match, good way to get the crowd going for this. Really, really enjoyable. The next match, the fourth match, was El Bandito and Flamita beating Laredo Kid and Golden Magic, Aerostar and Drago, and DJZ and Andrew Everett in a 4-team ladder match, where they became the number one contenders to the AAA World Tag Team titles. I thought this was the best match on the show for myself personally, as far as my preference. And I'm not a big ladder match fan, but I like these guys as far as the, doing crazy dives and working a faster pace of match. I really enjoy that style. So I really liked this match. I really enjoyed it. Drago looked like he was hurt entering the match. He has been dealing with a shoulder injury, and I think he might have aggravated that injury again after this match, because he did some crazy stuff. Some of the ladders looked really flimsy. Kudos to the guys for like holding the ladders at certain points, making sure the guys it wasn't a greater risk to their health. I think at one point DJZ was holding one of the ladders and held it for a very long time. They did do some spots where, like if the guy was holding the ladder, they'd actually kick at him and make it come across like it wasn't something that was just like, oh, this guy's holding a ladder. They were actually doing stuff like somebody would be climbing the ladder and some guy would hold the ladder to make sure he would act like he's grabbing his leg or something, reaching it for him or whatever, or the other guy would be kicking at him. I really liked the Aerostar in this match. He did a really nice job. I think he ran on the top portion of the ladders at one point to do a spot, and I thought that was really, really cool. Just a really crazy match. Highly recommend it. I don't think I could do it justice. This match, should have had money thrown for it just because I think it was that good. I think AAA's had this match and the Bandito Flamita Phoenix match from a couple of weeks ago. These two matches, I think if they were anywhere else on any other show, they would have had, like, people would have been marking out for it, rave reviews. They would have gotten like money thrown for them and stuff like that. But instead, they kind of seemed like these guys got a reaction in this match, but it kind of felt like there was points where I think they could have got a little more of a reaction. After that, we had Conan accompanied by Mad, including the newest member, Australian Suicide. They came out and confronted Vampiro, who was on commentary. Vampiro wouldn't get in the ring because he was waiting for his music to get queued up, and it never did. And instead of him just like, motioning to it or whatever, he kind of like, he cursed on the mic, and it kind of just makes it look so bad. It looks so unprofessional. And it was funny because Matt Stryker pointed out how professional Vampiro was. I'm sure he was joking, because at certain points, like if you watch, there's a YouTube video where they just show you all the worst of Vampiro and Matt Stryker in commentary, although it's the worst of Triplemania, but really this was part of it. And you kind of like look at certain points where Matt Stryker's already worn out, and it's like, what, 6 hours of being sitting there with Vampiro, listening to his nonsense. I can't imagine anybody really enjoying that. Anyway, so Vampiro got in the ring, and Conan and Vampiro agreed to a match where a loser not only leaves AAA but Mexico. I don't know. Do we really want to see this singles match? I'm guessing it's going to be a gimmick match where everybody from Mad, AAA members get involved, and that's the only way this could. Smoke and mirrors, a lot of smoke and mirrors. I don't really look forward to this match. I'm not that thrilled about it, and I'm sure there's other stuff that they could be doing besides this. There's some casual fans that I'm sure that are going to want to watch it. Nostalgia fans are probably going to want to watch it. I'm not one that wants to watch this. I didn't want to watch this 15, 20, 30 years ago. I don't want to watch it now. So, this is kind of like, that was the segment where I actually just had to that was my break time during that segment. The fifth match was Poder del Norte in a three-way versus Las Fresas Salvajes, Maximo, Mamba, and Pimpinela Escarlata. Poder del Norte actually won this match, and they beat Las Fresas Salvajes, and they also beat Team Elite, which featured Puma King, Hijo de Ale Park, and Taurus. I thought this match was okay. I thought Puma King and Taurus really worked hard, considering this is like their big match. This is Puma getting an opportunity to like be one of those guys who gets to work the anniversary, but also gets to work on Triplemania. So I think he kind of took it as something that he really wanted to do, and he looked good. I thought Taurus looked good also. The rest of the guys didn't really look particularly interesting. This could have used a Parca Negra run-in. It was an okay match. Way better than the next match. The next match was the OGTs beating Team Elite. of Juventud Guerrera, Jack Evans, and Teddy Hart in a lumberjack match. This was really bad. The lumberjacks I thought were pretty good, but they didn't go enough. This should have been a comedy match where they just had guys just being constantly getting thrown to the outside and getting whipped. That didn't happen enough. They did get a couple moments where they all did go outside, and the referee even at one point got whipped a few times by the lumberjacks. But it wasn't that good. It was horrible, actually. This was the one match that I thought was really bad on the entire show. At the end of the match, they had Poder del Norte do a run-in to attack Los OGTs to revive their feud. And while that is all going on, we see Jack Evans and Chessman having like a little like legit fight in the ring, where you see Averno kind of like just lay on top of both of them to like stop them, but you still see them like kind of still trying to hit each other. You knew something was up because Jack, as soon as he broke free from Chessman, he walked out and he was gone. I don't know. Maybe it's Chessman defending La Parca, and he wanted to get something in on Jack Evans. There's been a lot of guys from AAA who've been, the guys who never left, who are kind of like crapping on the guys who have left. So, I kind of get a feeling that was part of it. The seventh match was a match that I think, on paper, I thought this was going to be like something I was going to skip. It was Los Mercenarios, the first time they're as a group, Tejano Jr., Rey Scorpion, and La Mascara, and they beat the AAA team of Pagano, Joe Leader, Murder Clown in a street fight. Now, like I said, I thought this match was going to be something I was totally going to skip. I ended up watching it, and I thought this might have been like the second or third best match on the card. Some people have said it was the best match on the card. It's possible, because it was a wild street fight. I thought it was really good. Considering who were the technical side, and the fact La Mascara was on this, I think this might have been La Mascara's best trios match, like in a long time. They really did a nice job of like immediately everybody was bleeding. Rey Scorpion was bleeding from his elbow. Joe Leader's face was bleeding a lot. I think La Mascara had some. I think his arm might have been bleeding also. I know, I think Pagano was later on, but it was like a really wild brawl. Pagano brought in a shopping cart, and he ended up being in the shopping cart and then getting drop kicked out of the shopping cart. I thought that was a cool spot. They actually brought out fire. They lit a table on fire, and it didn't look like that big a deal when I first saw it. I was like, man, that's not a lot of fire. It only had like the cloth that they used to like let add a little fire to the table. It kind of seemed it was just the cloth. I think maybe it was like the camera angle that we didn't get properly. The other thing about what started, I think it started in this match, and it happens on every AAA show. Whenever somebody is going to go for a blood, like they blade, it's suddenly suddenly some camera guy shows up and like gets the shot right there, and you see the guy holding the blade and cutting himself, or you see him like doing the motioning. You might not see the blade, but you'll see him motioning that he's doing it, and it's like AAA has to figure out, they got to cut away from that because it makes it look so cheesy. It looks really bad, and they caught La Mascara at that point in that match, and they end up catching a couple of other people later on the show, doing that. But this match was like, getting back to the fire, I didn't think the fire looked that big, and again, like I said, it might have been the camera angle, but as soon as Pagano and Rey Scorpion went through the table, Rey Scorpion's back lit up, and I was like, "Holy crap!" There was enough fire, but that was a very interesting scene. I'm not a big death match or street fight match fan. Street fights are different for me. It's street fight. I always think of it like the 80s and stuff like that. Death match is very different. This kind of was more in the middle. It was a street fight, but also it had some death match components to it with the fire and the weapons that were used, the over the top weapons like the shopping cart and stuff like that. And then at the end, Tejano Jr. lit up his bull rope and was gonna whip Joe Leader with it, but I think he kind of missed most of Joe Leader with it, but he still Joe Leader still sold it, and he got the pin. I didn't really see the how much he missed, because I just noticed he lit it up, and then I think I looked down and to type something up, but it was fine. I mean, I thought it did the match itself, that wasn't going to kill it for me, because I thought it was really interesting, a really good match, very entertaining. The crowd really liked it. That's the most important thing. They had a pretty good crowd for this, and they looked entertained. The post match, they actually had Pagano going out on an ambulance, but the rest of the team and the Mercenarios were still brawling in the backstage. Samoano was there for the match and also in the backstage scene. I don't know if he's part of the Mercenarios. I would assume he is, because he's with them all the time. But yeah, this was probably one of the better matches on the show. I would say it's probably for me, it was probably my second favorite match on the show, or maybe the third, because I would say the main event actually might have been the better match. After that, we actually had a little change to the lineup as they switched around the title match with the mask versus hair match. Lady Shani beat Fabi Apache to win her hair. Match was, I thought it was disappointing. Really, I was expecting more from both of them, and the problem that this match had was that AAA overbooked everything around it. They clearly didn't have any confidence in the women to have a good singles match or to get a reaction. And, it's surprising because both women bled. And again, we saw the camera catch the women, blading. So there's another issue. And, but, they did a lot. I thought this would have been a good match, just letting them do it. Maybe like a little bit, one minor spot where somebody interferes and they stop it. But no, this was basically, I think Taurus got involved quickly. Then La Parca got involved. Then the other second got involved. Two referees got involved and actually had a match. Like at certain points, it looked like there was two matches going on, because when Taurus got involved, La Parca was in there and they actually were fighting while Fabi Apache and Lady Shani were on the other end of the ring fighting. And then like they had when the referees were going at it, they were both doing wrestling spots, so it kind of looked stupid. But I thought the match was very underwhelming. Could have been a lot better. I was expecting this to match the Princesa Suhei Zuxi's mask match. Really, I thought this should have been at that level, possibly even better, just because I'm very high on Fabi Apache as a worker, and she really is good. But it's like, what can you do when AAA's overbooking everything? So I thought that was the downfall. The cool thing is, I was really surprised at Fabi losing. I was expecting Lady Shani to lose, just because I just think she looks like she could be good looking, and it's like, in wrestling with what's going on with women, the WWE bringing in all the women every year, I would think she would be somebody that they would consider at some point, or she should at least be somebody that's in their as somebody that's on their radar. Fabi, I was surprised just because I didn't expect her to get her head shaved, and she got her head completely shaved. So I thought that was really, really cool. She's doing the whole headband thing now since that. So, I thought that was like a cool moment, but like I said, the match itself was underwhelming. The 9th match was Fenix beating Jeff Jarrett, Brian Cage, and Rich Swann to win the AAA World Mega Heavyweight title. This was really surprising. I don't know if it was surprising, because I think it's more surprising considering where we were maybe like 6 months ago with Fenix. 6 months ago, I think no one expected Fenix to return to AAA. I think it was around the time Conan returned where people started maybe thinking, and that might have been 6 months, but a year ago, I mean, the whole legal issue behind them, and the fact that Fenix called working for AAA, compared it to slavery. I kind of thought that was hilarious, that now he's the AAA World Mega Heavyweight Champion. I thought this match was actually pretty good. It had Jeff Jarrett, but Jeff Jarrett stayed out a little bit. He kind of just picked his spots to just build up the heat for everyone else. I thought Fenix and Cage carried the bulk of the match. Swan did some stuff, but I think Fenix and Cage were the two main guys. I really thought the finish was interesting. Jarrett was on his way to win and needed a referee to count, and who should walk out? La Parca. Only La Parca is limping, so we're supposed to believe it's Conan dressed as La Parca. Only when he gets in the ring and doesn't count for Jeff Jarrett, it's revealed that it is actually Dr. Wagner Jr. pretending to be Conan dressed as La Parca. So then he gets involved. Fenix ends up beating Jarrett with a cutter, and Fenix is the new AAA World Mega Heavyweight Champion. Really surprising considering what's going on with Fenix working CMLL and, his past with AAA. So, it's going to be really interesting to see the anniversary and see Fenix, who just won the AAA World Mega Heavyweight title, be in on that CMLL show in the semi-main event. One of the top 2 matches on the show, so top 3 matches on the show. So very very interesting. The main event, the main event was a Poker de Aces cage match that included LA Park, Hijo del Fantasma, Pentagon Jr., and Psycho Clown. The stipulation was that the cage, all 4 would have to wrestle in the cage, and then the first 2 out of the cage would save their mask, and then the final 2 in the cage would then wrestle a singles match with their mask on the line. What they did was, as soon as the first 2 guys got out, they raised the cage and they just had a regular match. Pentagon Jr. and Psycho Clown left. I think they might have been in the cage for like 5 minutes, but I think Pentagon Jr. was probably like the shortest run, AAA run on this show. I mean, for all that buildup, it's a name. They probably just needed a name in there, and his name was bigger than. I think there was a little bit more of a, there was more of a possibility that he would drop it than, like, say, Blue Demon Jr. or somebody like that. And the match would have been it was a lot better with Pentagon Jr. also. LA Park and Hijo del Fantasma end up having their match. I thought it was one of the better matches on the show. One of the top 3 matches. Hijo del Fantasma, he did a good job. LA Park did a really good job also. They brawled all over the building, all over the ringside area, I mean. They didn't have as much of they didn't have the craziness that say, like, a Psycho Clown match would have had. This was more of, or LA Park when he wrestles Roosh. This was more of in the ring. Oh, I should mention, during Phoenix's match, before we get to that, Phoenix hit a tope on Maricela Peña, and everybody rushed towards the ringside area to check on her. He hit a tope on Maricela Peña and I think a couple of the other women that are in the first row. I don't know if Maricela was there for the main event, but there was points where I was wondering if she could have caught LA Park, because LA Park hit a couple of topes at Hijo del Fantasma. I thought this was a good match, and LA Park surprises everyone and beats Hijo del Fantasma. Hijo del Fantasma unmasks as Jorge Luis Alcantar Boli, 34 years old with 18 years of wrestling experience as a pro wrestler. Really cool. He had his dad, Fantasma Senior, who's also the Boxy Lucha commissioner, one of the Boxy Lucha commissioners, and his little son was there also. His little son stared down LA Park. He did the gimmick of, like, he's gonna challenge him at some point. You never know, LA Park might still be around. And then LA Park made the show. He pretty much made the show what it was. Made it from a good show to a great show with his post-match promo, which was awesome. First of all, once Hijo Fantasma unmasked, he got his name wrong and called him Jose Luis instead of calling him Jorge Luis, which was awesome. And then he started ripping on Fantasma Senior for being for what he did with when he was dealing with his own gimmick as La Parca a couple years ago, and challenged him to a mass match, which Fantasma Senior supposedly had a heart attack recently. I think this would be just as bad of an idea also if AAA thought of this being a possibility, which we later found out it wasn't. LA Park not only continued to rip everyone, he then also said that he doesn't even work for AAA and he just won the mask of one of their guys. So as LA Park is starting to wind down his promo, who should walk in? Dr. Wagner Jr. And he's walking to the ring slowly. LA Park yells on the mic, "Hurry up, people are leaving already." So he said it in a little bit more of a colorful, language. So Dr. Wagner Jr. comes in and challenges LA Park to a mask versus hair match. A lot of people didn't really care about this. A lot of people thought that LA Park didn't care about it. LA Park basically told him that he was going to do it just because he wanted to show him what it's like to defend a mask. So this mask match is being built, mask versus hair match is being set up for the next main event for Triplemania 27 for next year. I don't know how excited people are about that. At one point, LA Park flipped off Tirantes, Hijo de Tirantes. There was a lot of involvement, by the way, by Hijo de Tirantes, and on every single match, basically, there was a lot of involvement from him. But he just buried Dr. Wagner Jr., just kept talking about how he couldn't defend his mask, and it was just a major burial, and I thought that was kind of, Wagner afterwards was like, well, he has a right to say whatever he wants. He was the one that won, and tried to like get out of the grave that Ali Park dug him into. But I don't know about that mask versus hair match. I don't know if people are that excited about it. I'm sure they're going to mention something else at some point that will be the other big match on that show. They got time. This is basically the match they're setting up to like hype for the upcoming couple of months. Then they'll probably come up with something sometime in March, February, March. They'll come up with something else to hype as well. But I thought the show was good. It was rather long. I could have done without those two, the three-way trios match and the lumberjack match. I could have done without those two, and probably the cruiserweight match. I think if they would have done 7 matches, I think it would have been a really good show. Yeah, so that was Triplemania. Where does it go from here? Ali Park still is, he's still, the fact, the other thing is the fact that they did the Dr. Wagner Drew Ali Park challenge. This now puts into this kind of just puts in limbo the Ali Park Roosh match, because you would think if they were going to do it for anniversary, it would be then, but now they might have to do it before that, or maybe they just won't do it at all. We don't know. I thought it was a good, like I said, Triplemania, good show. Yeah, that was Triplemania. Word goes, Phoenix as the new AAA World Mega Champion. Ali Park, the winner of the big mask match, and both these guys will be wrestling on the anniversary on September 14th. So that's really strange, considering they're going to be working it for the competition. It's 2018 Lucha Libre. So as I mentioned earlier with the Villano III being honored on Triplemania, Villano III passed away on Tuesday, August 21st from a brain hemorrhage at the age of 66. Really, I think this was the reaction to it was very, so many people remembering him, not just because of what a great wrestler he was, one of the top luchadors, of all time, really. I would say he's probably one of I would put him in the top 15, 20 greatest luchadors of all time, just because of, what he was able to do and what I found, a lot of the stuff that I found on him while doing his bio, his obit. I thought, he's really up there. And, the reaction, not just of him being a great wrestler, a lot of people talk about what a wonderful person he was, not just himself, but the entire Diaz family. Very well loved, well liked in the wrestling in business, not just in Lucha Libre in Mexico, but outside of Mexico. I know Mike Tenay raved about how wonderful the Villano family was the time I spoke to him. There's been other wrestlers who have talked about how good the Villanos were towards them, how they treated them. There were a lot of wrestlers who talked about how, they helped them out whenever most veterans were guys who didn't really provide any, help. They were guys who were always willing to help out. And, he was a star. Like by the late 70s, he was already a guy who was like, being groomed as a future, superstar. Like, when he started out, the entire family was part of the Arena Mexico EMLL promotion. So he was basically going to barely about to start off as part of that, that promotion. And around the same time, his father, Ray Mendoza, he was having issues with EMLL with Salvador Luteroth. The direction at that point, Salvador Luteroth was basically getting out of. He was basically like stepping back from running the promotion full time, and he was going to give more power for his son, and Paco Alonso, who still is in power. He was going to give more power to other people, and Ray Mendoza kind of didn't feel that. He didn't agree with that. And at the same time, the people that were getting power were going to start phasing out some of the older stars, like Ray Mendoza and some of the other guys. So what ended up happening was Ray Mendoza, Karloff Lagarde, and I think it was Karloff Lagarde and Rene Guajardo and a couple of other wrestlers, including the sons, the Villanos. I think Villano 3 at that point was already starting up as Villano 3. The first three Villanos, not the other two. The two weren't wrestling. And I think there were a couple of other wrestlers. They ended up joining up with Benjamin Mora and a couple of other promoters, and they started, they create that's when they start the independence, or as most of us know it, UWA, Lucha Libre Internacional, El Toreo, however you want to call it. That's what it was, or Benjamin Mora Promotions. That became what became the big promotion in the 1980s, where they would sell out venues within a distance of each other. On one night they would hold, or one day they would hold two shows, a day show and an evening show, and they would sell out. Thousands of people would attend. And basically by the late 70s, Villano III was one of the young guys that was basically groomed to be the next superstar. So they actually had him like headline the smaller arenas. He was feuding with El Signo at that point, and they were basically like the two guys they sold out some of the smaller buildings, and they were just surprised because these smaller buildings weren't getting big crowds for like the bigger stars. They were getting it for these two guys. I think by 1980, Villano III was already like a main event guy. He's had a lot of memorable feuds in El Toreo against the likes of Perro Aguayo, Fishman, El Signo, as I mentioned, Pegasus Kid. That was later in his career. Chris Benoit. It was funny because I was reading the Super Luchas interview, and he kind of said that of all the wrestlers he faced, the best he ever wrestled was Benoit. He said, but unfortunately, we can't really talk about that now because of the circumstances of his passing. I think most wrestling fans today remember Villano III more for his feud with Atlantis in 2000, in 1999 to 2000, which ended with the big mask match at the verse. I think it was the 2000 Dos Leyendas, March 17th, 2000, where Atlantis was basically the guy who represented EMLL, Arena Mexico, versus Villano III, one of the last big stars from El Toreo, and they had the big mask match. Won match of the year for the Observer, which is very rare for a lucha match to win that. Really one of the classic matches, and I think that at that point you would think he would have been a shoo-in for the Observer Hall of Fame. He's still not in that. Everybody thinks he's probably going to get in now that he's passed away, because there's always that death bump. Even if you just look at that, that's enough to make it like him a valuable Hall of Fame guy. But what you see from him from the 80s, and I think a lot of people go because, there's not enough footage of it. But I mean, the guy was a top draw. He was the main eventer in El Toreo during a period when they were getting 10,000 or above on a weekly basis. And it wasn't just one show that they were doing on a daily, on like, they might do like a Sunday afternoon show and then a Sunday evening show, or they would actually have two shows in two different cities, and they would draw really well. And I mean, with a split cruise, he was somebody that was there. And I think, you look at what he's done. He won 105 hair matches. He believes, that's the belief. And if you look at the ones that we know for sure that he won, I mean, there's still a lot, and there's a lot of big names that he beat for their hair and mask also. He believes he won 140 mask, which, I would think a lot of those are probably like matches that weren't, kind of like more of the independent level or local stars that he beat in mask matches where they the star caliber guys that he was in there with. And it's a shame. I think if he would have retired by 2002, I think people would have viewed him in a different way. Kept going on. And I think he had one heart attack. I think sometime in 2011 might have been his first heart attack, or the one that we can confirm, because at that point it was noticeable because his the way he talked was that of having suffered a heart attack. He never recovered from that. A lot of his interviews that he actually did afterwards were basically him talking that way, and it's unfortunate because he probably should have been somebody that people should have interviewed before he started suffering health issues. Because he's got a great history of what he could have told us about his career and stuff like that. Yeah, I think he would have retired earlier. He would have been somebody that would have been remembered a little differently. A lot of people's viewed him more as he got older, and they don't see him the same way that maybe some of us who saw him when he was in his prime in the 80s or even in the 90s. He had a terrific feud with Rambo in El Toreo, and then AAA brought it back, and he had a feud there. He wrestled everywhere. I mean, Japan, he was one of the top rivals for Tiger Mask. Gran Hamada, basically the WWF light heavyweight title, which was never a big title in the United States, but it was in Mexico and for mainly in Mexico, really, was made for Gran Hamada. It ended up being Gran Hamada, Paraguayo, Villano III. All these guys were involved in that. Just a lot of great stuff. Fishman, another great feud that he had with him. Yeah, it's unfortunate that we don't have all that footage. But little we have, I think you could see how good he was. That run he had with Atlantis was amazing. I think that probably would have been, I think that should be enough where you just have some really good memories. And like I said, I really like the way they honored him in both CML and AAA. They allowed the family to all be there. I think in CML they also had Ray Mendoza Jr., who's Villano 5 and Villano 4 were there in attendance, and their sons were also there. So I thought that was a cool little way to like honor Villano 3. And hopefully, I was hoping that maybe like both his sons would end up wrestling a little more. Villano 3 Jr. is actually getting work in AAA, and he's actually pretty good. And I would like to see Villano 3 wrestle in CMLL. I don't know if I've seen him on indie shows, and he's actually pretty good on the indie shows, but I would worry. I don't think they want to bring him in and have him work openers and stuff like that. They got to bring him in and actually at least immediately place him like in the third or fourth match, because or somewhere in there with the Audaz and Templario, because if he's in there in the bottom, he's going to be stuck there forever, and it's just going to be him like wondering what's next. He's got to be somebody that when they bring him in, they got to bring him in at the right time. And I don't know when the right time is, just because with CMLL you never know. But like I said, Villano 3, a legend, somebody that really, if you've not read the obit I wrote, I recommend reading it. I really enjoyed writing it. It's unfortunate, like I said, it's always after somebody passes away that something gets written or gets researched properly. But I found a lot of cool pictures of him in magazines. I found the one I used on the obit was from 1979. I didn't want to have just him like all scarred up and stuff. There has to be like at least one person that remembers him before that all happened. That was the it seems like every couple of like month or so we lose somebody, and it's unfortunate. We got to continue on with what's next, the big anniversary show. So CMLL announced the 85th anniversary show lineup. It wasn't what everyone was expecting, but it's what we got, and it's a pretty, I think it's pretty much like a regular Friday show lineup, like a really good Friday show lineup, but it doesn't come across like an anniversary level type of show. Let's run down the lineup. The opening match is going to be a women's trios match. Princesa Suhei, Marcela, and La Jarochita versus Reina Isis, Dallas, and La Maligna. Maligna is usually a Technica, so she's working with the Rudas. I think it's because she's probably going to, I think she's going to Japan soon, so they probably wanted to feature one of the women on this show. One of the two younger women, either Maligna or Mystique, and they end up with Maligna. This really just comes across like a very, about the same usual women's trios match. It could be good, it could be a good opener. It might not be. I don't have high expectations for this match. You figured there was going to be a women's match on the card. I don't think they were going to do La Jarochita versus Reina Isis in a mass match this soon. But they could probably use this to kind of start building that up if they really want to go to that for next year, or for, a Dos Leyendas or some other show, or the year-end show or something. They could use this to catapult that. Overall, I'm not that excited about the opening match. The second match is Niebla Roja and Angel de Oro teaming up with El Audaz, going against Negro Casas, Felino, and Mephisto. Originally announced for this match was Mr. Niebla, but Mr. Niebla on a recent Tuesday show showed up in no condition to wrestle, had one of those really bad performances that he's known for, where he's basically just he's not in good form. It even got worse because they ended the match in like 2 minutes, and Volador Jr. removed his mask and ran out of the building, upset, very visibly upset. So you knew Mr. Niebla was going to get suspended, and I think he's suspended once again. He got pulled off of other indie shows as well during the week after that incident. So Mephisto takes his spot. I would have preferred if they would have had Templario or Tiger or Hechicero on this, just because I think it would have been cool to have Audaz versus somebody like that. But Mephisto and Nero Casas teamed up recently and did pretty well with it when they teamed up with Hechicero. So that should be a good match. It might be one of the better matches on the show. The third match is Mystico, Atlantis, and Soberano Jr. versus Sansón, Cuatrero, and Forastero, La Nueva Generación Dinamita. This, I think it could be a good match. If Atlantis is basically just there to do the big spots that people are going to be accustomed to, are accustomed to seeing him do, the Atlantida, or coming in and like doing a babyface comeback or something. I think the Dinamitas are good enough to like have a good match with these guys. With Atlantis, they've been working with him for a while now. Soberano Jr. is good, really good. Mystico, he's good in trios matches, so I think this should be an okay match. I'm not expecting it to be like a standout match. I think there really isn't a match on this card where I think it's going to be the standout match of the year type of candidate. The main event might be that, but even that might not be at that level. But it should be a good match. The fourth match is the one match that I think everyone's worried about. It's the Guerreros Laguneros, Ultimo Guerrero, Gran Guerrero, and Euphoria defending the CMLL World Trios titles against Clan Chaos, Cyber the Main Man, The Chris, and Charlie Rockstar. And this match, if it's anything like the previous matches, it's gonna be horrible. They had one match that was passable, but everything else has been really bad. It just doesn't work well. They try. Clan Chaos tries, but I think for this show it just doesn't. It's not like a big match on an anniversary. This doesn't come across well. I don't see this. It's not something that people are going to go out of their way to watch. I actually think the show probably doesn't have anything that people are going to really go out of their way to watch. As far as like, if it's on iPay-per-view, and they haven't even announced if it's on iPay-per-view. I still don't think there's anything that's strong enough on this show. The semi-main event is LA Park teaming up with Hijo de LA Park and Caristico versus King Phoenix, Penta Zero M, and Diamante Azul. I think this match probably would have been a little stronger if it had somebody other than Hijo de LA Park and Diamante Azul. I think those two guys are like the weak links. They probably could have done the tag match, but since the main event is a tag match, that's probably why they couldn't do it. I think Dragon Lee would have been somewhere on this card. He would have either been in the fifth match, or he probably would have been in the third match. One of those two matches he would have been in. Honestly, I think they changed the entire lineup at some point. I think they must have had like 3 or 4 different ideas of what the lineup was going to be, and this was the one that they ended up with. This could be actually, the semi-main might actually be good if LA Park and Caristico and Phoenix and Penta all come in working hard. Hijo de LA Park and Diamante Azul, they're okay enough where they could actually have be in a good trios match. So I don't think it's going to be that it's not going to be a huge issue. But like I said, it's underwhelming. And the other thing is, I think a lot of people are going to watch this and they're going to see LA Park, and I think the crowd is going to react very negatively towards the main event, because they're going to see LA Park in the same main event, and they're probably going to start they're going to start some chant where they want LA Park in the main event, and it didn't happen. The main event, Volador Jr. and Matt Taven versus Rush and Barbaro Carbonaro in a hair match, double hair match. Well, yeah, it's not the match people wanted. Everyone wanted LA Park versus Rush. They ended up with this, and everybody came up with a bunch of excuses. CMLL, Rush, LA Park. Actually, Rush didn't come up with that huge of an excuse. It was more him saying, what can I do? It's LA Park or CMLL's fault. But yeah, there was a lot of people hoping it would be LA Park versus Rush. That didn't happen. Instead, we're getting, this tag match. I think this tag match will be good. I don't think it's going to be anything that's going to be horrible. But all 4 of these guys have proven that they could have good matches. I think there's going to be enough heat for this, but unfortunately, like I said, I think they should be a little concerned that LA Park is in the same main event, and that might take away from this match as it starts. So these guys are going to have to do, it's pretty much going to end up being like what Sombra and Volador Jr. had to do, where they had to win over the fans, and they had a hard time doing that when everybody was expecting Atlantis versus Ultimo Guerrero, and they got that match instead. And I think this is going to happen with this as well, only because LA Park's in the semi-main event and people wanted to see that. I think this is the one guy who wins out in this is probably Barbaro Carbonario, who just automatically moves up into like a different level. He's not just a main event, occasional main event guy. I think this puts him there. You know, he's on the next level. I think they could have. I think Volador Jr. made the comment that he would have preferred a singles match, a singles hair match. I think it would have been fine. Him versus Rouge or him versus Carbonario in a singles match. I don't think Taven's hair is that that big of a prize, but I actually think they're probably the more likelier side to. I think Volador Jr. and Matt Taven are more likely to lose, just because you're still gonna get, if you have Rouge and Carbonario lose, you're suddenly losing out on the Rouge Alley Park match that could have happened. Nobody's gonna care at that point afterwards. It's not gonna be as big of a deal, and I think both Rouge and Carbonario, you could actually build some other hair match at some point later. Not just this year, but down the road next year or down the road even further. Whereas Volador Jr. and Matt Taven, I think Volador Jr., in 2 years his hair will grow again. Taven's hair isn't that, he doesn't have that much. He's got, his hairstyle is a little more, it's kind of like Sam Adonis, where he only had like the middle part and had like a crew cut kind of hair. But yeah, that's the anniversary. I think everybody, like I said, everybody wanted Rouge versus LA Park. I think this anniversary is really missing a singles match. I think they should have gone 7 matches, added us another singles match. And they've had recently a couple of title matches. This would have been a nice place where they could have thrown in the Hechicero Stuka Jr. title match with a title switch. They could have had Titan versus Mephisto. They could have had Caristico versus Ultimo Guerrero. Of course, that probably would not happen because the Clan Chaos versus Guerreros Laguneros. But at least there was that slight chance you could have gotten rid of that match entirely. One of those matches, or they could have done a stip match. They could have split this tag match into 2 singles matches. That would have been fine. I think that's the one downfall, I think, out of this whole anniversary, where I just don't think it's not strong enough. I don't think even the undercard isn't loaded up enough to make up for the main event. It's a very underwhelming lineup. I'm very disappointed in CMLL in what they came up with. They've had far better shows. The Nero Casas anniversary show had a better lineup. I think the Grand Prix in October is going to have a better lineup. They have had better lineups earlier in the year. I actually think Angel de Oro and Cuatrero would have been a better main event for the anniversary than what they're doing in this one. This, to me, the hair match, double hair match, feels more like a Dos Leyendas type of main event. So it's underwhelming, and now with Impact having those TV tapings and putting prices that are kind of pretty reasonably low, I wouldn't be shocked if you see more people go and attend. But I don't think it's going to affect the anniversary attendance. The anniversary attendance is going to be, no matter what other things are going on. If it's low, it's because of how poor the lineup is. If it does well, it's because people actually think they just want to go for an anniversary. I don't think Impact isn't going to make this huge dent in that. I think it's really more about the lineup than anything else. Like I said, very underwhelming. At least they replaced Mr. Niebla, which I wish we could have replaced the entire Clan Chaos, but unfortunately that didn't happen. So that's your anniversary show. In other CMLL news, CMLL announced the Grand Prix Team on World members. They also announced that the Grand Prix would be happening on Friday, October 5th. Team World will consist of David Finlay from New Japan, Mark Briscoe and Jay Briscoe from Ring of Honor, Flip Gordon from Ring of Honor, Dark Magic from the Independents and IWRG. Julio Cesar Rivera claimed that he had been a former WWE and ROH wrestler. None of us have found any information on him. It's possibly could have been like in some sort of training with them or something, but I did not find any information on him. All I know about him is he wrestled in IWRG recently, which usually is when it's a foreign guy showing up and working in IWRG. Usually there's good odds that they might end up appearing in CML at some point. Michael Algen from New Japan will also be on Team World. Okumura from CMLL, and the 8th member will be the newest member of CML's roster. I think he's pretty much joined the promotion. The man formerly known as El Mesias, also known as Mil Muertes. Well, he's still known as Mesias and Mil Muertes, but in CML he will be known as Gilbert El Boricua, or as they say it in Spanish, Gilbert El Boricua. But it is Gilbert to us because it's easier for us to say Gilbert El Boricua. Pretty interesting Team World. Last year's team had a lot of guys that weren't really that interesting, like Sam Adonis and Johnny Idol. Actually, Sam gets a lot of heat, so I shouldn't say that. He's actually somebody who actually was getting a lot of the crowd was really behind him. But Johnny Idol was very underwhelming, and this group, at least, I think this group, the one question mark as to how good he is or how bad he is or what he is in the ring is Dark Magic. Nobody's seen him wrestle. Nobody knows what he can do in the ring. At least he's not as familiar. We're not familiar with him. But, the rest of the guys I think they're pretty good. I mean, David Finlay, the Briscoes were very impressive in their CMLL debut. Finlay is, I've seen him work in New Japan and he looked pretty good also. Flip Gordon, I think this is cool for Flip Gordon because he was in Mexico last year when the earthquake hit, and I think he might have got one Arena Mexico show, or maybe not even that, or an Arena Coliseo, and the rest of the time he wrestled primarily in Guadalajara. So I think it's kind of cool that he kind of gets at least to work Arena Mexico for a big show. Elgin has basically been one of the guys who's really been very impressive in these Grand Prix. He also did it for Elite. He's the Elite champion, by the way. He should probably be the guy who's in AAA at some point. I think it's good for Elgin. I mean, I think he has. There's a dark cloud over him because of the stuff that's going on with him in the United States. With really, if you don't know about it, it's just just Google search it. I'm sure you'll find all that information. But like I said, in Mexico, people don't really like. I mean, if a guy's a good wrestler, that's all they care about. They don't really focus on the other stuff, which, is an unfortunate thing in many ways, but also helps a lot of the, guys who maybe want a second chance. There's always that possibility in Mexico. And I think this is something that Elgin should consider because, if he can't get work in the United States, he could always get some appearances in Mexico. There's a lot of promoters in Mexico who have no problem booking guys like that, and I'm not saying that in a way where I'm defending it or anything. I'm just saying it as something that's realistic and happens. I have no opinion on that. I mean, people want to book them. If you don't want to attend a show, you don't want to watch a show because of a certain wrestler's, personal situation, by all means, you have your right to do it. If you want to, if you don't care, you have that right also. But it's like, I know it's like I said, from a wrestling perspective of like somebody wanting to get a second chance, that might be something he should consider. Okumura's in this match, somebody has to get it. I'm hoping he's the first one eliminated because everybody else, him and Dark Magic, I don't know. Like Dark Magic, I have no idea. He could be good. I don't know. Gilbert, this is a good way for him to like maybe build himself up in the eyes of CML. He came in the right time. I mean, Marco leaving and vacating the CMLL World Heavyweight title. I think this is a good way for Gilbert to join the promotion, and who knows, maybe he's in the mix for that title. It's kind of interesting because right now there's a lot of different guys that could go for that title. Between Gilbert, LA Park, I don't think he would win the title. Diamante Azul, unfortunately. Rouge, Terrible, Cranio. Maybe they could get Elgin to like be in the tournament. You don't know, like it should be, but this Grand Prix, I mean, it's always like something that's very fun to watch because it's very patriotic. It's going to be interesting to see who's on Team Mexico. I would venture to guess you're going to get like all the star names like Ultimo Guerrero, Rouge, Volador Jr., probably Caristico, Mystico. I think the one quite interesting thing will be if they add LA Park, Penta, and Phoenix to this. I don't know. I haven't checked their schedules or anything, but it would be interesting if they were part of the mix, because if they brought those guys in, this would be really loaded. I think they're probably waiting for Dragon Lee to see if he'll be available. That reality series is really like it's really like bumming me out because we could have had Dragon Lee work a lot of interesting things. Actually, probably, a handful of things, but it's like he hasn't been there. So it's like he's missed out on working with Penta, Phoenix when they've worked trios matches in CMLL. So, it's hopefully he makes it for this in time for this thing. Also on that Grand Prix show, Kaho Kobayashi will be making her return to CMLL, and Julio Cesar Rivera said that she's going to be back and she might be there for extended trip. that she's good. She's good. I look forward to seeing what she could do again. She was impressive the last time she was in CML, so hopefully she continues and doesn't get bored of working those nonstop trios matches. There was a lot of interesting stuff going on in CML. They basically had Hechicero. He had a match Relampago with Valiente that was really good on Friday, August 10th. And then that followed up the following Tuesday. He lost the NWA World Historic Light Heavyweight title to Stuka Jr. He had just defended against Daniels like a couple, like 2 weeks earlier. So so it's like, this was surprising. But I think if you're the best way to like know if there's going to be a title change in CML is just notice the champions and assume there's going to be a universal tournament coming up at any point, and they just have to even up the numbers. So we've had a lot of technicals like starting to, like, you had Volador Jr. win his title back, and of course we had Caristico beating Ultimo Guerrero for the NWA World Historic Middleweight title on August 21st in Guadalajara. That match hasn't made I think it made a handheld, but it's not on it didn't make television, the Guadalajara TV that Cubs fan records. But yeah, Stuka Jr. versus Hechicero was good. Both matches with Hechicero, the one with Valiente and the one with Stuka Jr. were both very good. Hechicero, like I said, Hechicero somebody who should be, he should be somebody who's like a main event guy in CML, and for whatever reason they really don't. They kind of have him in the back end, like in the middle of the card, and it makes no sense. Other matches that were really interesting on Friday, August 17th, Forastero and Audaz had a really good match for Lampago. Forastero won, but it was really good. And there was actually that was the show that Okada made his CMLL debut, where he teamed up with Nero Casas and Ultimo Guerrero to beat Diamante Azul, Místico, and Valiente. I think the match, when it was announced, people were really bummed about it because they wanted an Okada singles match, and they didn't see the technical side kind of like match properly with Okada. But that was a really good trios match. Casas, Okada, and Ultimo Guerrero made a fun trio. They're a really cool Rudo trio, and they worked well with these guys. Right after Okada got the win, Diamante Azul charged at him, and like they exchanged like forearms, and Diamante Azul was really like just laying him in, and Okada was totally confused, had no idea what was going on. His reaction until like everybody else like kind of looked over at Diamante Azul. I think Diamante Azul is just trying to get booked in New Japan and thinks that by building up a rivalry with one of the Japanese guys coming in, that's going to lead to it to happening. But unfortunately, probably won't. Fortunately, probably won't for the New Japan fans. Unfortunately, for those of us who watch CMLL, because he's getting more he's appearing more often. Because he did it this past weekend when Naito was in with the Ingobernables de Japon were in CMLL. Other stuff, Mephisto beat Titan to retain the CML World Welterweight title on Tuesday, August 28th. Good match, usual good match. Not as good as the previous match, but they're always going to have matches. Like I said, I think this is something they could have done on the anniversary. One of these singles matches would have been perfectly fine, would have built up a technical in the eyes of fans. Unfortunately, CML doesn't see it that way. The August 31st show was where we got the Ingobernables de Japon making their return to CMLL. But before that, there were really nothing much was going on this show. The Dinastia Casas beat Nuevo Generación Dinamita, and this was actually probably the best match on the show. The Dinastia Casas, which had Felino, Nero Casas, and Tiger. Tiger looked really good. I think Tiger really needs to start getting pushed. Unfortunately, his brother left, and CML just randomly elevates guys and then has them lower again. So, I hope he gets an opportunity. Matt Taven beat Carbonario in a singles match. Volador Jr. and Rush were very much involved in this match. In the finish, they were the seconds in this match. I thought the match was okay. I don't know if Taven's at that level of where he's, like I said, you're not. It's amazing the guys that Mexico gets that kind of they push as stars and they're able to pull it off. I mean, because if you think about the stars of Lucha Libre from the American side, they're not guys who are big names in the United States. They're guys who are pretty much like just looking for either to get a second chance in their careers, or were guys who had to build up their careers, or they were guys who were pretty much, just journeymen or mid-card guys, or, guys who weren't really the biggest names in their own promotion. Fabuloso Blondie wasn't like this huge, he was basically a guy who was more of a territory star, territory mid-card guy, worked a lot of different places. Who else? Art Barr, he was basically a guy who was like in trouble in the United States and ended up in Mexico and became a huge star. You get a lot of the guys like that. Marco was a guy who was basically let go by WWE. He was a guy who had some potential, and he went to Mexico and made a bigger name for himself, became a star, and he really adapted well to the style. And it's unfortunate that he's retired, but he's at that age. He's in that 40ish range. I think he understands, because he comes from the U.S. side of the wrestling side here in the United States, where a lot of guys weren't reaching for their 40s, 50s, barely reaching the 40s, not even reaching their 50s. So I think him with a young family, a young wife, and a baby, another son, it's like, I think he kind of wants to spend more time with them, and he knows the risk of extending his career for a longer time in wrestling. At some point he was gonna stop. It hasn't been a secret. He's pretty much said that he was gonna call it a career sometime in the next 2-3 years, and he's done it. Good for him. Wish him the best. I think he's gonna be missed. I think people are what he did in CMLL was like a lot better than he gets credit for, because there's not a lot of technicals who become popular with the crowd, and it's another loss for CMLL. They've lost a lot of talent in the past couple of months. Marco, Puma King, Zuxis, it's kind of hit them at different levels. The main event spot, at the mid card spot, and then at the women's division. It seems like the microstars are the only ones that haven't been hit yet. On that show also, we had the Volador Jr., LA Park, and Diamante Azul. I think they beat Rush, Naito, and Bushi, who were accompanied by their valet, Evil. All the Ingobernables were there, well, the ones that were in Mexico, and they were able to get some pick group shots. This match wasn't very good, honestly. I didn't think it was good at all. I would have, if you're looking for something to watch from that show, watch the Dinastia Casas versus NGD match and Matt Taven versus Carbonario. And I think if you're an Ingobernables de Japon fan, you might want to watch this, but if not, you could skip it. It wasn't that good. I mean, I kind of think that they're losing a lot of steam on the Rush LA Park feud by switching it over to the other guys. And those other guys aren't really what the fans want to see against Rush, Volador Jr., I mean. So yeah, that's what's been happening with CMLL. The other news, Cranio's added a new member. Actually, he's starting the Guerrillas del Ring. He's been talking about that since turning technical and feuding with Rush earlier in the year. And he's finally added his first member, who is coming in as Volcano, who used to be Warrior Steel Jr. Big dude. I think when he was Warrior Steel Jr., he still looked pretty green in the ring. And I think now being this character, it's probably going to take a little bit more time for him to like develop. But they did win their first time teaming together. They won in Puebla, so that's another one that's happened. And that's about all the CML news for this episode. Impact TV tapings in Mexico on September 13th and the 14th, where that was announced. They've already announced the ticket prices for the two shows, between 220 or 260 pesos and 660 pesos. So that's like about between $11.35 and I think $34 US. So those are pretty affordable shows. They've also announced that Fenix and Penta will be on those shows. Fenix and Penta said they will also be on the anniversary show, so on the CML anniversary show. So CML anniversary is happening during the same day that the second set of tapings for Impact is happening. So I guess we're gonna find out what will happen with Penta and Fenix that day, because everybody's kind of confused if they're going to be able to work both shows. It's actually close enough where they could work both shows, but there's a lot of people who don't think that that they would be on they would be on the Friday tapings of Impact to go against CML's anniversary show. But Today's wrestling, you never know what's going on. Other news, a group of promotions primarily made up of IWRG, Lucha Memes, Lucha Libre Boom, Promociones Nova, Playo Sports, MDA, Generación 21, GCC, and Torta Super Astro all held a press conference to announce that they were forming a super group called PAL, Promotores Asociados de Lucha Libre. This is basically what they're basically trying to do is like kind of put together like all their ideas and all their what each one of them is good at and put it into one group so that everybody can actually succeed and have a better make make Lucha Libre better. And some of the promoters that are younger get to learn from some of the older guys, like the IWRG promoters or some of the guys who've been doing it a little longer. They're also going to share talent, like since each of these promotions runs in different parts of Mexico. So they're basically getting all this stuff to like help the talent, share talent. If there's an issue with another promoter, they can all join together and like tell people they won't recommend that promoter. They've also talked about running shows together, and they actually ran a show recently in Arena Naucalpan where they actually had everybody they had different representatives from all the groups. It's an interesting thing. I mean, we've seen groups do this. I know the AMLL group out of the Torreon Coahuila area, they do that also. They have about 6 different promoters. You basically have Arena Azteca, Arena Lobo. There's like a bunch of other ones. Plaza de Toros. I think one of the Plaza de Toros is one. There's basically 5 to 6 different arenas that are run, and they all like they all have a similar situation like what this group is trying to do. So I think it's possible it could work for everyone. I don't think it, when they were talking about what they wanted to do, it wasn't anything like, oh, we want to compete against the major promotions. They did say it afterwards. Like one of the promoters did kind of say that. They kind of, why not? Why can't we do it? But a lot of those promotions, they basically use talent from the 2 promotions that they're kind of, well, especially from CMLL. IWRG is more about using, they'll rent out their building to AAA, but they've used AAA talent in the past too. So I think it's more of a, let's work together, but let's not rock the boat on, dealing with AAA and CMLL. One of the promoters said, hey, CMLL couldn't pull off Rouge versus LA Park in a mask versus her match. Why can't we do it? It's easy to say that, but one of the groups actually several of those groups have had those type of matches. So can they like pony up the money and actually do it? Who knows? The other show I want to talk about that I actually watched this past weekend. It took me a while just because there's so much wrestling going on throughout the weekend. CMLL, AAA, All In, all these other indie promotions that were going on. I didn't watch all of All In. I watched the main event. I found out it was the main event. I didn't know. I just saw the match itself. It had Bandito, Rey Mysterio, and Rey Fenix versus the Young Bucks and Kota Ibushi. I thought that was a great match from the All In show. I recommend people watching that if you haven't seen it. Really good 10-11 minute match. Just a lot of crazy stuff that goes on in that match. And then there's like a cool moment where Rey Mysterio and Kota Ibushi are in the ring for the first time and the crowd really reacts to it. I thought that was a really fun match. And Bandito looks like a star. He made the right decision. We say that every single time he wrestles. Like, he made a good decision going independent instead of, going where he could have, basically had a spot in CMLL. He's an Ultimo Guerrero guy, so he would have definitely had a spot in CMLL. But that just because you have a spot in CMLL doesn't mean you're going to be a main eventer or if you're going to get pushed right away. Because we see a lot of guys, the Casas family, Puma and Tiger, they never got pushed, and their family's been with CMLL for the longest time. So, and there's been other guys that have been there that don't get that same opportunity. It's about, I think he made the right decision, and it showed in All In. He worked in front of a crowd that way over 10,000 people. So, he made a good decision. He's working all these big shows on the outside of Mexico and also in Mexico too. So, I would say he's on this episode. I already talked about that ladder match that he was in for AAA. That was good. The All In match was good. And now in the Mexa Wrestling August 4th show, he had a really good match. But I'm going to talk about this show. There's 2 matches that didn't actually make I didn't see on the, I don't think they made it onto the the video that was posted by Mas Lucha, which was the trios match of Aramis, Centurion, Latigo versus Ares, Eric Ortiz, and Mr. Iguana. I would have liked to have seen that, but it wasn't on there. And Tiger versus Metalion. I didn't think that made that also. What they did have was the Battle Royal, which actually had Nero Casas winning it. But getting to Nero Casas was a painful thing to watch because the rest of the Battle Royal was awful. Really boring. But, Casas really, really delivered. And, they did a good job of putting over Casas also. Following the Battle Royal that was won by Negro Casas was Kira beating Lady Maravilla. They basically threw like confetti or some sort of paper that for when Casas won to celebrate his 40th anniversary. That was the same weekend that he celebrated it for CMLL. He was a surprise participant in the Battle Royal. So they basically dropped confetti, and you could see it throughout the show. It would have been nice if they would have broomed it, brought in a broom and like cleaned it up, because it made it look really messy. The poor women kept getting all that paper stuck in their hair. But I thought the match was pretty good. Kira beating Lady Maravilla. I'm not as big a fan of Lady Maravilla as some other people are. I think Kira's awesome, but Lady Maravilla, I still think she's good, but I don't think she's like her the way she wrestles, her movement is really like I'm not used to it. It's really weird. Kira is just a badass. So that was the highlight, Kira. After that, they had Titan beating the King, Rey Fenix. That was actually a really good match. Really enjoyed it. This match, why haven't we seen this in CMLL? That would be something that they should do, and we don't get that. Like I said, every time there's a really good singles match featuring like a CMLL guy, it's always on the independents. It's very rarely on their own shows, unless it's like one random match every so often. I mean, they got to do more of these and not just have them be the title matches or, the match Relampago. They got to do something every once in a while just to make it interesting. After that match, the fourth match, Bandido and Flamita beating Steve Payne and Eterno. I thought this was really good. Bandido and Flamita are awesome, and Steve Payne and Eterno are really good opponents for them. Kudos to Eterno for having that cool mohawk. And but overall, I thought this was a really good match. Bandido and Flamita again showing how awesome they are. Really great in the ring. I think this a lot of craziness in this match, and you could tell this was like a pro Flamita crowd because they were really behind him. Just a fun match. I think if that was the match, I thought this was going to be the match of the show, but actually, to my surprise, I actually thought the main event, Toxin beating Flystar in a mass match, was really the best match on the card. And it's not even the type of match I really enjoy. It was lucha extrema and very hardcore. A lot of like crazy bumps, a lot of stuff that you would think is dangerous. They used those chopsticks that Masada and Pagano use a lot. They used those. They stuck it. I think it was Flystar who got him stuck on his head at one point, and then they did dives off of the balcony, the second story, whatever that balcony portion of it. They did a couple of dives like that. I thought that was really cool. Dangerous, but that's what these guys are gonna do. It's not like anyone's going to tell them to stop doing it and they're going to listen. Odds are they're going to do it anyways. But I thought that was a really good match. It's probably one of the better matches I've seen this year too. So, initially I was kind of like, it was good. But then as it continued to build up, I thought it just kept building up to where I thought it was one of the better matches of the year. Toxin and Flystar are really good. If you're going to have a big match of the year, big mass match, I think that probably was probably going to be I thought it was better than the Triplemania main event, honestly, just because of the craziness that they were doing. Really good match. Overall, I thought this show was really good. Like I said, I would probably skip the battle royal if you're really like trying to save time. That should be something that I mean, Mas Lucha should have just clipped that and added the other two matches onto the show. But the rest of the show I thought was pretty good, really fun. And like I said, I kind of wish we could see these guys. Like, this is the type of... It's cool. Like, now we actually get these guys... I mean, we get these guys actually working not just on independent shows, but we're now seeing them in the U.S. independent shows. And, in CMLL and AAA, like guys like Bandido, Flamita, Titan, Rey Fenix, Kira, Lady Maravilla. They're all over the place. and you still get the the indie levels, the indie feel of a show from Arena San Juan for the main event. I thought that was kind of cool. Like I said, and it was packed. The building was packed for this. So I'm pretty sure they were all there to see the mass match more than anything else, because they stayed for that match. Usually, you could tell when somebody's like, if somebody's fed up with wrestling, they're probably gonna leave once they see their like the stars or whatever, and they stayed for this match, and that match was really good. Like I said, highly recommend it. I hope they add the other two matches at some point. They might have, I don't know, because they sometimes post individual matches. Yeah, so that's about it for this week. Thanks. Want to thank everyone for listening. I will probably be doing something on Patreon at some point. Sorry that I haven't been able to do anything. I've been busy. Thanks again, everyone, for listening, and we will talk to you guys again soon.